Nokuba sithi sife sifela inkosi. Ngoko ke nokuba sithi sidle ubomi, nokuba sithi sife singabe inkosi. Another translation puts it like this. My light is not bright enough. Whether we live or die, it must be for the Lord. Alive or dead, we belong to the Lord. For God, whether we are alive or dead, doesn't make any difference. It's just a transition. It's like moving from one room to another, or from one city to another, or from one province to another. Actually, it is the same with us Africans, because we believe that when people die, become ancestors, they transition to the spiritual life. Hence, when we bury a human being, we usually say, we are begwa, or we are fishwa, we hide them. Meaning they are still present, but are hidden from our sight. Even the Bible says, by faith the dead still speak, even though they are dead. Naxa efile nje usathetha, Romans 11:4. We believe that our ancestors by nature and by grace are close to us and minister in special ways to our needs. Can I have my phone, please? I need light. Of course, for us human beings, it is very difficult to understand this. I need mine, please. I won't be able to operate this. Sorry, I can't see. Of course, for human beings, it is very difficult to understand because death literally robs us of the loved ones. We won't see Phumlani again with our naked eyes. We won't hug him or look at him affectionately. Sibuze ukuba uziva njani na namhlanje Jwaka Mtika Mazalini. The Bible describes death as an enemy. The last enemy to be destroyed is death. For believers, death is a friend insofar as it takes us to the presence of Christ. But insofar as it is still combined with too much suffering, it remains the last enemy that must be destroyed. In Romans 3:38, Paul had already written that neither life nor death could separate believers from the Lord. Again, in this passage, the same thought is presented. Because Christ conquered death, we are called conquerors by Paul. And he says, yet in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. All these things include life and death and everything in between. Because Paul himself endured suffering constantly and was living in constant danger. Whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord. Means not only that we die in God's perfect timing, but also that we will continue to belong to the Lord after we died and enter eternity. We'll ever and always belong to the Lord. However, Christian freedom is not a license to do whatever we want, the way we want. Our choices and freedom should still be guided by submission to God. My prayer for Phumlani is that he can inherit internal joy where there will be no more sorrow, no more pain, no more suffering, and no more death. Azisule uThixo zonke iinyembezi emehlweni akhe. Ngabe sabekho kufa, ngabe sabekho nasijwili nakukhala nanhlungu ngokuba izinto zokuqala zidlule. In conclusion, lusapho lakwaPikoli, no matter how severe your pain is, you should never assume God is not listening or doesn't care. Thembelani kuye, yomelelani, ikhaliphe inhliziyo yenu. We should learn to trust in God even in the midst of our sufferings. Nale imeko nikuyo yedlula. Times of darkness and despair will not last forever. Thembelani kuYesu ukuba ufumaneka iluncedo kwawo bathembele kuye. Amen.
Thank you, Reverends, for opening up tonight's proceedings. We are here tonight to honor the life of Phumlani Pikoli. Phumlani blazed through Pretoria and Cape Town by means of Willow Ridge and UCT. He went on to become a multidisciplinary artist in the truest sense of the word. An award-winning author, a playwright, a filmmaker. He converted his book of short stories into an incredible exhibition. Self-taught, self-motivated, a true raconteur. Kathy will say a few words.
Thank you, Kiva. Phumlani has been one of my closest friends since we met in 2007. And like a lot of people that are Phumlani's friends now, the story of how we met is a bit of a funny one, but I won't get into it tonight. For me, Phumlani was more than a friend to me. He was like a sibling, but more like that irritating sibling that you get as a lastborn, that you never asked your parents for, but that you grow to completely love and cannot even imagine life without. That was Phumlani for me, with a lot of emphasis on the very irritating. It's very difficult for me to stand here today because I actually had never contemplated this day would come, especially so soon, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the same. But here we are. I personally feel like this is still not happening, and I think a lot of us are in the same space. So hopefully, by being here to celebrate Phumlani Hawks, aka the Black Peter Bruce, as he used to refer to himself, we can leave with some sort of closure that we can take with us and lean on when this finally sinks in. We can never understand why people are taken from us. So all we can do is try to focus on how blessed we are to have crossed paths with those people. And that's what we're here to do this evening, to share our beautiful memories and stories about how Phumlani impacted each of our lives, and to remember him as the funny, thought-provoking, brilliant, big-hearted, often outrageous and highly inappropriate friend, brother, son, colleague that we came to love. Knowing that no one can ever feel this hole in our lives, and hoping that wherever he is, he has that silly, up-to-no-good grin across his face, and most importantly, that he's at peace. Thanks.
I unfortunately have not had the pleasure of meeting everyone here, so I will just give a brief history as to who I am to Phumlani and who he was to me. I met Phumlani when we were about 16 or 17. I would love to say that our bond was forged immediately, but the truth is that I don't think we liked each other very much. It took us a while to grow into our friendship, but when we grew, oh man, we grew. Phumlani became a brother to me. I've really been struggling to find words for this loss. Phumlani gave us so many beautiful words, but in his passing, it feels like he took all of mine with him. So I would just like to leave you with this. Phumlani had an unreal and sometimes eerie ability to do three things: to make you laugh, to make you cry, and to make you dream. And I hope that as we mourn together, as we grieve together, as we celebrate his life, we allow ourselves to be gentle enough to continue to laugh, to continue to cry, and to continue to dream. I would like to bring to the floor our first speaker for today, a cousin from the Pikolis, Sbusiso Makoni.
A very good evening to everyone. Abefundisi abahleli phambi kwethu, the Pikoli and the Majola families, nazo zonke izihlobo nezanamane ezongamele family ngexesha linje. As Kip has already said, Sibling Makoni, Phumlani's cousin from the Gqeberha, formerly known as Port Elizabeth. When I got, the message from Solom's last night asking me to be part of the program, I wasn't quite sure what to say, but I knew I couldn't say no. On my way here, I was contemplating where does one start to speak about Phumlani, and there really isn't a place where to start, because he's one of those characters that had no beginning, it had no ending. He was the trailblazer amongst our lives that lit the fire within all of us, as our MCs have already said so. So to start it off, I think I will just say to the families that, say not in grief he is no more, but in thankfulness that he was. As you've heard, I'm speaking as a cousin. Growing up in the dusty streets of New Brighton, Mendy Road, there were, I think, 6 of us as boys there. Phumlani, Soloms and myself, Utuso standing over there. It's a pity Usia and Umpumzi aren't here yet. They'll be arriving tomorrow. So you can just imagine the chaos that 6 young boys will wreak in your house. But we managed to not get into much trouble because our grandfathers did not spare the rod, as everyone else knows around here. So we grew up in that Mendy Road. They were coming in for holidays. I'm a permanent resident there, and it would always be good times when we were together, either Sisemende Zanzi or over Mendi Pezulu, where I stay. Phumlani was still working. Okay. Phumlani, he wasn't always the most vocal amongst us as we grew up, but he had his ways of showing us love, and it's that love that I think that brings us all here today. And some of the fondest memories that I have growing up were being in Mendezansi in the back room playing PlayStation, where the Phumlani and the Solomons taught me how to play Tony Hawks, and I think that is where their love for skating came from, by playing the game on the PlayStation. And then obviously we grew up, and we kind of went our separate ways in a way in life. As we all know, Phumlani was never good with keeping phones. It is something that he was always losing. And at some point, I think I had about 6 or 7 numbers of his on my phone. But yeah, we went on to varsity, and we would hook up, we would meet up, and those are stories for other days that we used to sit and laugh about, as we'd call ourselves these sort of ungrown-up children at the age that we are right now. And if there was a love that we managed to share amongst us, it was the love for rugby, which is why you'll see me wearing an all-black t-shirt, because that is the one team that, we would always root for. That when it comes to the Crusaders and the All Blacks, besingajiki apho. Phumlani is probably the only person I could lament and celebrate a Crusaders loss with at the same time, because one of our biggest arguments was who's supposed to be starting at fly-off for the All Blacks. Is it Richie Mo'unga with Butte and Barrett? And he was always for Richie Mo'unga and I'm always for Butte and Barrett, and which is still like that. So wherever you are, Phumlani, Butte and Barrett is still the better fly-off, my friend. So yeah, as we grew up and we found a common love within the media spaces, in the radio and TV space, and as you've heard, he was multidisciplinary when it came to books, on the stage, the radio as well, and everything, and that's something that we shared and something that we spoke about quite often. And I think what brought me to tears the most was a project that we'd been speaking about for quite a while, and we actually never got it off the ground. And what's even sadder is that it was only a couple of weeks ago when I began to get things into motion about that project, where we would write a book, we would record a documentary about a subject that we were both so passionate about, which is rugby. What I will say today, that Phumlani left a legacy of love, left a legacy of selflessness. Whenever we spoke, we'd always end the conversation with "I love you," and it would be "I love you too, man." So wherever you are, brother, I just want you to know that your pen was definitely mightier than the sword, which is evident by the number of people who are here today who in some other way have been touched by your presence in their lives. So I think that's all that's left to say would be, go rest, brother. And I hope wherever you are, you're at peace from a world that could have never hoped to understand you. Rest, Scouty. Rest, Mr. Slick.
Thank you. Now we'll have a cousin from the Majola side, Johnny Sizwe Majola. Sorry, Jengsis is not here yet, so we will move to a school friend, Katleho Malachi.
Greetings to everybody, to the family, friends, relatives, to the men of God. I'm going to try and keep this short and light. If I didn't keep it light, I can just hear Phumlani in his made-up Sepedi saying, "Oh," and then when I'm on I'm not sure if I'm wearing this jersey in his honor or if I'm just wearing it to hide my mkaba, but I'm wearing it. I met Phumlani in primary school, and it was somewhat distant when the same grade as Usolomzi. And when I moved over to Woolwich High School, we sort of hung out in the same hip-hop rap circles when he still went by Slick Tongue. And in grade 9, we then caught up grades and forged somewhat of a friendship. I wasn't certain how serious this friendship was until Phumlani confided in me about being in love with a certain Mashwake. Now those of you who went to school with us would appreciate that, number one, confessing to being in love was a bit of a social risk, and you could only confide that in somebody you trusted, and I took that as a vote of confidence, barring the fact that I was confused that Phumlani was in love with a black girl. I didn't take him serious for the first couple of days, but I soon came to realize, but no man, he's serious, le chap. And so we had to try something. And try we did. And we failed. But we tried, and in that trying and in that period of building and forming this friendship, I came to learn a couple of things about Phumlani. I came to learn about his conviction, about his passion for his convictions, about his humility, because no, we can't do that, no, we can't do that, no, let's try it this way. So, but above all, I came to learn about his love, his loving nature. And over the years, moving past that incident, we went on to share love for a number of things. Love for sports, love for public speaking, debating, politics, drama, more debating, the All Blacks, more debating, history, where we eventually went to place first and second, respectively, in matric, and a love for people when we served together on the peer support group, which is a role that I think Phumlani took more serious than any role he would have taken as a student leader or a sportsman on the field. The duty, the responsibility, the ability and opportunity to care for others in that peer support group role. Phumlani not only loved people, but he was loved by people. And this would have been evidenced by his ability to, in the morning, be hanging with the Owens, getting up to mischief at break time, hanging with Majita, watching them play soccer, second break, hanging with Abelungu, talking about whatever they talk about. And his ability in a time like that where we were so racially concentrated in our social circles, to be able to cross those boundaries with ease was not only telling of his love for people, but how lovable he was to people. And over time, as we finished school, the most constant and consistent love became a love for one another, in Phumlani's ability to always stay in touch, to always forgive, and an ability to stay in touch. And yeah, growing up, we came to realize, Phumlani shared a lot of his love with people. He loved his family deeply. He loved his parents. He loved his siblings. And in his love for people, he was open enough to share and open up his home to us, to open up his family and share his family with us, and likewise his family to share him with us. Made us feel at home. exhibited such a great humility in constantly reminding us that a man is not to be loved or judged based on his material disposition, but on the merit of his character. There was an opportunity to have gone a very different route growing up in the space that we grew up with, but Phumlani never delved into any of that. He treated people as people and loved them equally. I want to thank Tata, thank Mama, Zugiswa Solomzi, for sharing Phumlani with us. Everybody's got a very peculiar and unique experience of Phumlani. He meant a lot to people on an intimate level because that is the level of attention to detail that his love had. It was not performative, it was not for exhibition, it was for impact. We hope to continue to share that love with you. We still consider ourselves a part of the family. Tata, if you're willing to cook that meat that you'd cook when the All Blacks were about to wallop the Springboks, I'm committed to cooking the pap and sharing the controversial views that Phumlani would have shared in commentary during those games. Our memories will range from walking like nomads all over Pretoria, as though we didn't have access to transport, to Phumlani beaming at his final book launch last year and sharing such big dreams, hopes and plans for the future. And you know, one of the fondest that he kept speaking about was a movie based on this very city, which he loved in his own peculiar way. And as such, I'd just like to encourage us in honor of Phumlani's memory to remember those characteristics that he possessed and to carry them in our lives. Humility, perseverance, conviction, and love. Now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Let there be love shed among us, and may his soul rest in peace.
Thank you, Katecha, for those beautiful words. We'll now call the neighborhood friend, Bobo Daman.
Good evening, everyone, friends, family, colleagues. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to just speak on my experiences, in the neighborhood growing up with the Phumlani. So I just decided just to write a letter. And the name of the letter is Letter to My Neighborhood Brother. In the beginning, you were like a younger brother I didn't have. And in later years, we became more like homeboys beyond the little brotherhood. The fondest memories I have was when we used to have freestyle sessions, and just for fun and as a pastime. Even though I wasn't the very best at it, you made it more fun. And it was just really fascinating just watching you make the English language your concubine. As time went by, we grew older, life got a bit tougher, but we still kept the enjoy life and not take it too seriously mindset. You taught me that true creativity comes from just being yourself, instead of using your own imagination to create ideas that don't reflect what you're about. I wish we had more time. I wish I had more opportunities to work together. And I wish that I came to see you when you reached out upon your return from Bermuda, which I still need closure on. I know one thing for sure though, is that you gave the world everything you had within you, and the world wanted to take more from you that you could give. The world wanted to take more from you that you couldn't give anymore. The world just lost a real brother. May God grant you the highest level of paradise in heaven. Thanks.
Thank you, Baba. We will now have a work friend, Baba Nyembes.
We arrived just on time. We're stuck on traffic all the way from Joburg. So, Pickles Pikoli is what we called him in the newsroom at EWN in 702, which is where we met. Pickles became my friend from the very first day that he and I met, and he really chose me. And I think we were both kind of people who didn't really belong in that space at Prime Media. And I think, yeah, the thing about Pickles that was really unique was that he made everyone in his life really feel seen, like he saw you, you know? And so, yeah, we became friends. The very first day we met, we were stuck in a really hot car with like no air conditioning, the windows weren't working. We had to drive out to the outskirts of Gauteng. And that was our first date, essentially, as Abangani. And since then, Pickles and I have been partners in umsebenzi and in creativity, just, throughout. And so even after we left Prime Media, where we both felt like we didn't belong, and so we needed to find the thing that was meant for us, because we knew that we wanted to be creatively expressive, but it wasn't the space for us. And I think Pickles really encouraged me to find out what that was, right? And I encouraged him to do the same. And so after we'd left Prime Media, and you know how you leave umsebenzi, I don't know how it is for you guys, but usually you leave umsebenzi and the people that you worked with, you leave behind. Pickles wouldn't let me leave him behind. So I moved on first, and he would reach out consistently, just being like, yo, these are my thoughts, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? And I think just him pursuing me in friendship, even after we had moved on from Prime Media, really reassured me that what he saw in me when we were there was like he meant it. And so when he would reach out to me randomly, being like, friend, here's a PDF of this book I've written. What do you mean you wrote a book? Oh yeah, I wrote a book, and I want to turn it into, you know, like a multimedia series of work. I don't want it to just be a book. Okay, Mgani, let's meet up for coffee and discuss. Sizwe. And like he was really persistent about just making sure that the things that existed in our minds were brought into the world. Phumlani was a creative's creative, and I know that because Wayatanda, he loved everyone that he encountered really, really well. And when Pickles chose you, You know, there was no second guessing. There was no kind of question about it. And so even bringing me, kind of a work friend, into his world and to meet Abanganbak and his people, there was no question about it. So it wasn't a 9 to 5 friendship or a Monday to Friday friendship. It was a friendship that, yeah, that was real. And it was a friendship that we built over the years. And so when he was working on Born Freeloaders, when I was working on like various creative projects, just there was a consistency in his love. There was a consistency in the way that he chose to see magic in something before it came out and was a real thing in the world. And it's something that was really, really special about him. And I think the one thing that I'm going to, like, I can't believe is never going to happen again is Pickles is never going to send me a message being like, hey friend, I have this idea, let's find a way to, you know, get funding and get paid for having fun. Because we used to have a lot of fun. We used to get into a lot of trouble as well from Prime Media days when we pitched John Robbie. So the one time we pitched John Robbie on this concept that we'd worked on overnight. So we literally stayed up all night. John Robbie came in at 3 a.m. and Pickles was like to me, you have a good relationship with him. So I was like, okay, cool friend, let's see. And I pitched John Robbie and John Robbie was like, Babs, Phumlani, love it. And it went live. We got into trouble because we hadn't gotten like the work approved by either of our bosses, and so they heard this on the radio coming into work just being like, what? Oh man, we stayed getting into trouble. And so like that was the one time, and just I think with each project that we worked on, it was us like getting into good trouble, right? Because when you're creating things, it's okay to apologize later, like the thing will work out. And so we often did a lot of apologizing later, even with the exhibition that we did last year. So that was the last big project that kind of went live that we'd worked on together. And the exhibition went live, but can I tell you what, like, and I don't know if Anne is here. So 3 days before, kind of some of the key pieces of art had meant to like arrive, and we hadn't heard from one of the artists. I won't mention the person by name because he might be here as well. He's a friend of Phumlani's, or they're a friend of Phumlani's for ambiguity. But 3 days before, I think it was 3 days before, no art, nothing. Asazi, when things are coming, Anna's stressed. She's calling Pickles, he's not agaphenduli, calling me. So I have to now answer. Have you heard from Phumlani? What's happening? Hey, and like everything is in order. We've heard from we've heard from Spanbani. Everything will be amazing. It will be sorted. And Nangempela, when the day arrived and the exhibition came, I mean, most of you that are here were there. And everything went so smoothly. It was as if, you know, like there had never been any kind of hiccup. But I mean, even when I arrived, I think it was the morning of or the day before, I, as someone who was part of it, was like, yo, it's happening, you know? And we high-fived, and he'd been WhatsApping me, just being like, okay, things are coming, zieza, how are things lining up on your side? And just the ability to see the thing before the thing, you know, was a real thing for everyone else to appreciate, was something that was really unique to him. Because even with Born Freeloaders, he was like to me, cool friend, I actually want to do something bigger. I wanna write something that, like, you know, wasn't written while I was in a mental institution. I want to show that I can do this for real. Okay, like everyone believes that you're an author though, you know, there's no doubt about that. But just the determination of, no, I have these characters, I have these people, and I want to bring them into the world. And when I got the PDF a few months later of the book, just being like, oh hey, by the way, I'm beginning, and what? It's real, it's in the world. And that's just something that Pickles did time and time again. And I think what was really important throughout our careers, because our careers were kind of like, we were intertwined even though we were working separately. Throughout our careers, he had the ability to make people believe in the thing that he was working on. It's something that was, yeah, it was him, right? And the reason that he could make people believe was because he sold whatever it is that he was selling to you from a place of love. And so there was no way to doubt that actually in Ngiyamthemba lo muntu, I believe that this person, it's not just about being who he said he was, because I think he was raised with great integrity. I've met his siblings, and you guys are the same, even though you're different. And so one thing that about Phumlani was he wasn't just who he said he was, he also did what he said he would do. And that's something I'm really going, something I'm really going to miss, because it was a unique thing. He brought He brought his own unique flavor, I'll use that word, to the world and to the lives of everyone that he loved. And so I think one thing that we can all do, no me ngaseko, because I gaseko. Sorry. One thing that we can all do is to show up in the world and be who we say we are. Because Phumlani was consistent. So no matter where I encountered him, whether it was with his rugby friends or with with Abo Nolan, or like out on the streets of Joburg or in the newsroom, Emsebenzini, he was exactly the same person. And that's not something that you find often, especially with our generation. And so, yes, he was very talented, but he also loved. He loved us all very well, and he loved us all so much. And I keep on saying this, is Phumlani was the best of us. And we might have lost the best of us, but we have a piece of him. And the thing that I am committing to doing is to taking that into the world and loving with as much integrity and consistency as he did. Thank you.
Thank you, Babala. Those words are really moving. When you felt Phumlani's love, you felt it. There's a slight change to the program. I'm a stickler for protocol, but when the love of Phumlani's life says she wants to say some words, who am I to stand in the way? So, Kiara Gricha, it was yours.
Phumlani was the most magical person I've ever met. He put forward a strong, brave, and often quarrelsome face to the world. But deep down, for the people who knew him best, he was the most soft-hearted, empathetic, and kind person that I knew. He cared so deeply for his friends and his family, and loved those close to him with complete abandon. He had an entirely unique way of viewing the world, which was beautiful, and which we were lucky enough for him to share with us in his work and in his writing. He was devilishly handsome, but always shyly dismissed it whenever I told him so. He was brave. There were things that he struggled with, but he was strong and was constantly working on himself, and always made time to be there for those around him. I loved him so very much. Sometimes the brightest and the most beautiful among us are only meant to be with us for a short time, when we are privileged enough to get to bask in the intensity and magic and wonder. I wanted to have a long life with Phumlani. There was so much that we were still meant to do. He was undeniably the love of my life. I can only take comfort in the fact that he knew how very deeply he was loved, and that wherever he is now, he's at peace.
For that, Kiara. We're going to have two of Phumlani's close friends come and speak, Thandi Steenkamp and Andile Mbete.
Good evening, and thanks for coming. It's beautiful to see all the people that Phumlani has touched and been part of their lives gather here and all around the world watching. It's been overwhelming to realize the extent of his reach that he's had in such a short lifetime. This is just testament to what a phenomenal person Phumlani was. As Mateo wrote, his superpower was making everyone feel incredibly close to him, however infrequently you saw or spoke to him. I know I'm also usually the one that talks a lot. When Fuzzy asked me to speak today, I didn't know where to begin, because there are just no words. How do you quantify a force like Phumlani in just words? I don't even think he himself, as the amazing writer he was, could do it any justice. I thought I might tell a funny story or memory, but there were just too many. If anyone that, Temba once said, if anyone that ever knew him told just one funny Phumlani story, we'd be here for weeks. So it feels impossible to stand here in front of you and describe who Phumlani was to me, because to each of us he was different, and also so unapologetically himself. He gave a different piece of his heart to every person he met, and every person he knew he loved so dearly. I'm just grateful that I got even a small part of it. And in death, I know we'll carry him in our hearts forever. Just all his magic. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Andy Lemete. So yeah, the task of talking about Phumlani Pikoli, where do you begin? So for me, my journey with Phumlani really starts before me and him actually even met, before we even friends through our family. And in many ways, me and him spoke about it a lot. We felt like it was a predestined thing that we were going to have this bond. But I think, given this moment, I just wanted to talk about my journey with the guy. It's, we first met through our mutual friends in university. And the first time I met him, I'll never forget seeing this guy walk into this room with this energy and this charisma, just talking about rap music all the time. And I was like, this guy is the best person I've ever met, but wow, he dresses terribly. Yo. And kind of from there, it became this journey that we had. And I think we all know we all had different bonds with Phumlani, but one thing, and I'll tell one or two stories with you guys, is that when me and Phumlani really bonded is that we loved the scheme. Anything or any opportunity we could stick it to the man and make money, we're gonna do that. So one story we have is once when me and Phumlani were the brokers to ever being the students. I mean, it was bad times. We'd ask for money, our parents for 2 months textbook money, they weren't gonna give us anything, so we just had to make another plan. I knew Phumlani had a scheme if he called me, and the first thing he said to me was, cats. I was like, oh, cool, we've got a plan. He calls me and he's like, listen, I know a way for us to make a lot of money very quickly, so I'm cool, let's do it. He's like, there's a guy that buys chargers, cell phone chargers for 5 rand. Let's get all the chargers we can get and let's have the best we can. I'm not joking, after about 3 hours, me and him walked to this guy in Mowbray with 2 bags each of chargers between 4 houses that we managed to collect. Get to this guy and he's like, the first thing this guy says to us is, no, it's too much. So we went back home starving, sitting trying to find another scheme. Phumlani, as everyone has said, means a lot to everyone, but I can literally stand here as a person who can deeply say that that man changed my life in many ways. Through his nature, his creativity, and through his schemes. When a long time ago, myself, Fuzzy, and a lot of us, Mark, Phumlani had this plan, this big idea of creating this blog and creating this creative space for ourselves, where we could all really present our voices. The real story behind that story is that this whole thing was, Phumlani was worried about my love life and worried that I wasn't meeting girls. So he created this thing, and through that, and I mean, it was just an idea that we played with, but through that, it was a way for him to express his writing, for us to talk about the world that we're living in. And I can tell you right now that I wouldn't have a career without that experience, without Phumlani driving that. So it's hard to talk about like a friend and a brother and also somebody so instrumental to who you are, and realizing that he's gone. And I mean, for me, one thing I really will celebrate is witnessing this man go through the world building this complex tapestry of friendship and love and creativity, building all these people together, from the biggest jock to the artiest person, and creating this world together. And leaving us all there. I mean, he's a part of everything we do, I feel. And I'm so, so grateful to have it. And just imparting to the Pikoli family, you guys have been my family for years, and I'm so grateful that you guys loaned us the sky for so long. And I can speak on behalf of all the friends that we will pay that debt tenfold for the rest of our lives, and we're really grateful, and we love you all.
Thank you, Andile. Thank you, Tandi. I love you both very much, and those words meant everything to all of us here. We'd like to give Jongi Sizwe an opportunity if he has arrived. Mr. Majola, are you here? No. Okay. He has one more speaker next, and then if he hasn't, unfortunately, we'll have to move on with the proceedings. The last speaker on our program is Luando Tasa. Is Luando here?
Angivuse no-Angeli, niyayazi uba ndikhulele eWisile. Elam ixolo ndiyakhala kuwe Nkosi. Enkungwini, ekufeni, phuma langa lolungiswa. Mandingene endleleni ndilibona usindiso. I hope eliculo nani will comfort you. To Phumlani, I call you my brother, teacher, friend. This was not supposed to be the setting. Maybe your 35th birthday or your 40th birthday. Maybe a lifetime achievement ceremony or a Hall of Fame ceremony. That's where I would have liked to honor your life, not your memorial. Your name in the same sentence as dead is just not believable to me. You entered my life at 4 years old. You and Solomzi came as a package deal. I have never known a time where you did not exist in this world together. I remember your cherub faces with cheeks so perfectly round. I remember your brightly colored corduroys. I remember those early years you spent mostly crying or just simply grumpy. It made seeing you smile that much more special. But mostly I remember how you and Sori always hung on to each other, especially when you had to navigate unfamiliar spaces and unfamiliar people. You had each other, and I thought of myself as your older sister, not knowing that you had an older sister, Uzugiswa, who was in Port Elizabeth. But as soon as she joined us in Johannesburg, she became my best friend from the first day we met in 1992. Now we were a quartet. From sleepovers at your home in Malvern, and Primrose, and my home in Diepkloof, every time you boys came over, my parents had to hurricane-proof the house because we knew the havoc that was coming. So much so that I nicknamed you guys, "Oh, what a mess." You taught me to surrender to fun, to disorder, and to mischief. I remember our weekend routines of Zuki and I preparing breakfast. No eggs or bananas for you because of your allergies. I remember us getting you bathed and dressed and begging you guys to clean your rooms. Watching Ninja Turtles, followed by a long day of swimming and TV games. And I really enjoyed those moments where I got to beat you in Tekken 3. I remember the sing-alongs. Remember Lemon Tree, Solomzi, by Fool's Garden? I wonder how, I wonder why. Yesterday you told me about the blue, blue sky, and all that I can see is just a yellow lemon tree. We invented a game. We called it Aeroplane, where I held you up in the sky and I helped you fly. All I ever wanted was your affection. Sulumgo, your best friend, our other brother, was there for all the fun, a permanent fixture in our childhood. The three of you together ran circles around Zuki and I. Looking after you was a workout. It was at those times where I was like, perhaps being an only child is not a bad thing. Uzigiswa, a model for the perfect older sister, putting your hunger before hers. You two are the anchors of her entire being, her heartbeat, and the sun around which her world rotates. I am honored to have been a lifelong witness to your love and admiration for each other as siblings. It is a love that elevates all those who are fortunate to encounter it. Your parents did an incredible job. I witnessed you and Soli transition from toddlers to preteens to teenagers, and I was so relieved that I loved you even more as grown men. Our beautiful coming-of-age memories span the breadth of this country, from Johannesburg to Pretoria to Cape Town to Port Elizabeth, spread over 29 rich years. I'm ashamed to admit that some of these memories have started to blur. But what remains in sharp focus, Phumlani, is your character. You are very much Uncle Vusi and Uncle Gertie's son. Loving, thoughtful, and whole. And what I mean by whole is that you have integrity, Phumlani, because there was only one version of you, regardless of whose company you were in. Whether it was my parents or me, we all had the same version. That's integrity, that's wholeness. What remains in focus is the freedom in which you lived your life, daring us to be more free in our lives. You rebuked the mediocre. You had disdain for unquestioned traditions and conventions. You saw the world's lies for what they were, and you were determined to unshackle yourself and to do it your way. That was your superpower. This didn't mean that you did not seek the world's approval. You always wanted to know if you did well. This seemed to be your inner struggle. How to exist freely in the world and how best to hold this world accountable. During COVID, I saw your anger at the systems of domination that affect our people. You never understood why we couldn't do better. As a child of the revolution, you had that spirit in you to fight for better. Most of all, I admire your radical acceptance of people for who they were. It made us all more free in your presence. In my shy days, you gave me the rap nickname Al Weezy, which caught on because a lot of people call me Weezy. Every time someone calls me that, they will be invoking your spirit. You were the only one who could get me to dance in the street like everyone was watching and we didn't care. For years, we had been planning our epic dance-off on the Nelson Mandela Bridge to Man Eater by Nelly Furtado. I guess I will have to settle for the sing-alongs we had to Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On a warm December night in Port Elizabeth. Those days were always perfect. I will forever cherish our cross-country road trip in 2009. Uninterrupted time, the four of us, against our country's beautiful landscape. a country you learned how to love in your mother's womb, a country whose struggle you were conceived and born into. That struggle was part of your genetic code. It was inevitable that you would wrestle with South Africa and try to push it closer to the greatness you knew was possible. Even when you rooted for the All Blacks, it was just tough love. I cannot believe that there will be no long conversations over our existential dilemmas. No more birthdays to celebrate, no book launches to attend, no plays, movie screenings, no more text messages sharing my pride at your latest achievement, no more road trips, no more hugs and funny faces. The last time I really hugged you, not a cursory hug, but the last time I held you was December 2019 at Vuvu's funeral. A loss that reminded you of the loss of Vuvu's brother, Slumko, years earlier. We stood by her graveside, whiplashed. Why did this happen again? Today, I'm asking the same question. Why did this happen again? That day, you cried on my shoulder, and I didn't know that it would be the last time I would hold you as I did, like when you were a toddler. Our last long phone call was last year, October. You must have sensed that I needed you. You called me out of the blue because you knew I was about to take a creative risk. I was unsure, and your call was right on time. You assured me my nerves and doubts were normal. You encouraged me to be proud of my work. And this time, like a big brother, you held my hand through a crisis of confidence. I checked our WhatsApp messages, and twice in the last couple of months you asked me for lunch. We kept putting it off. Now it's one of my biggest regrets. I thought we had time. This is the end of your embodied life, and its end illuminates how you lived. That pouring of love is because of the love you gave to all of us. Thank you for liberating me inch by inch every time we were together. After each of our encounters, I walked away more myself. To the Pikoli family, my family, I'm going to steal the words of John O'Donoghue. Know that although Phumlani's days were brief, his spirit was alive, it was awake, and it was complete. I pray that with time, you will learn the acquaintance with the invisible form of our departed. That you will be able to enter the hearth in your soul where Phumlani awaits your return. In time, may Phumlani's spirit inspire you to enter each day with a generous and open heart, to serve the core of courage and love until you see his face again. His legacy is safe in your hands. To Phumlani, thank you for loving me. Thank you for loving my parents. They were always happy and laughing in your presence. I remember you came to my house and you saw this quote on my fridge that you loved so much. And it says, "The only people for me are the mad ones. The ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, and mad to be saved. Desirous of everything at the same time. The ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, 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 like the fabulous yellow Roman candles, exploding like spiders across the stars, and in the middle you see the blue center light pop, and everyone goes, ah. Burn, Phumlani. Lala ngoxolo Phumlani. Phumla Phumlani. Siphinde sikubone jwarha."
No, thank you so much for sharing those words. It's not easy. This brings us to the end of tonight's commemorations. I'd just like to take the opportunity once again to really extend a heartfelt thank you to the Pikolis for being so generous. Even in your loss, you shared Phumlani with us. And I think I speak for everyone here that it means the world to us. I'm so grateful to have the space for all of us to be able to hold each other and send our brother off. We truly are grateful. We'll close off with a closing prayer. Reverend Ntobo will give us the closing prayer.
Let us pray. To God, who is able to keep you from falling and to bring you faultless and joyful before his glorious presence. To the only wise God, our Savior, through Jesus Christ our Lord, be glory, majesty, power and authority, from all ages past and now, and forever and ever. Ithi intsikelelo kaThixo Somandla, uyise unyana nomoya ongcwele ihlale nani ngoku kude kuse emaphakadeni. Amen.
Apologies. Just one more item. Mr. Klepu. Apologies, Mr. Klepu. There's some final announcements to make. Is he available?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, just be patient.
Thank you. Befundisi, Pikoli family, friends, thank you for this opportunity. First, I also want to thank you for such a beautiful service. Mine is short and brief. It's just to announce that the funeral is on Friday. The family will be gathering here at the house from 7 to receive Phumlani from 7 to 8 service. And then the next service will be in church, which is Hatfield Christian Church, which is right here in Newlands. Service will be starting at 9 o'clock with expected time of finishing at 11. And again, with the understanding that we all know the rules and regulations, COVID regulation. We expect when the service is done, we will all disperse. Of course, the family members will be coming back home. Thank you very much.